Hi
Great.
everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leading People. I'm your host, Chitong from EngageRocket, the fastest growing people analytics tech company here in Southeast Asia. And in this series, we explore different aspects of how leaders are navigating the current pandemic and economic situation to be able to extract insights and best practices from those at the top of their field. And today, I have the privilege of speaking to Stanley Tan, Group Head of MNC Sales, Global Transaction Services at DBS Bank. Before that, he worked at the New York office of McKinsey as a management consultant and has had extensive experience working with local and international teams. Welcome to the show, Stanley.
Thanks, Jitong. Glad to be on.
Now, maybe if we could just quickly go through a little bit of an introduction. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, but how would you describe your role to the audience?
Sure, Jitong, thanks. So I currently head up a team. As Jitong mentioned, I cover sales to our multinational corporate clients. And actually, we have a pretty diverse team spread out across the US, in London and in Singapore, and a broader team, including our core markets, in China, India, so on and so forth. So we have a sales team, traditional sales team. We sell our transaction services, and we call on clients in our various markets.
And how is the team organized? Is it it's a sales team? Is it mostly like by geography and territory?
Yep. So how we work is that we focus on US or European or UK headquartered names. So some of our colleagues will call on our treasurers or CFOs or senior execs of our clients in these markets. Oftentimes, these clients also have regional treasuries. So someone in a Asian market will call on them, typically Singapore, Hong Kong, or sometimes now more popular China as well. And then you may have a local, in the sense, in-market opportunity, and we'll call on them. So maybe to give an example, right, you could have NMC, and our client setup being a US company with a Singapore regional headquarters doing business in Indonesia. And then our team would then have those three same fronts to coordinate an opportunity.
I see. Okay. So I think this will be a structure that's familiar to most people who have to run multinational teams, and that's really good. And actually, you're a great person to speak to about this because the impact of COVID-19 has truly been quite global. I've had friends and other leaders share with me that it's like watching a bad movie a few times, right? You watch it once, happen in one region, and then another region, and in your experience, like what changes have you seen in the way that you've had to work, as well as your whole team has had to work, that have been caused by this pandemic?
Yeah, probably I'll mention a couple of things that came to mind, but maybe to pick on your comment, it's a slow movie rolling out. That's very much the experience we had. I remember when our mainland China colleagues first explained what was happening, we were kind of like, we got it, but it didn't really internalize into our PAU day to day. And then it slowly rolled out, and then and after kind of in Singapore, we understood the magnitude of it, right? Then subsequently it went in India and in the US. So we really saw this play out over several stages. In terms of how it's affected us, I would say we've been a little bit more fortunate. I mean, obviously the crisis is a serious one. But in terms of our BAU and cadence, we've already been communicating virtually across time zones. I think that, day to day, the very big changes have been on the use of video. Like a forum like this would have been harder to imagine, say, 12 months ago, or the ubiquity of it. And maybe one thought in terms of where it's really helped and one thought in where it's kind of not helped as much. I think what's really helped is that, this form, the new normal, you want to call it, very much pervasive across both within the bank as well as even with clients. So in the past, because of the nature of our work, sometimes it was harder to coordinate cross-market, cross-border conversations. Now, much more commonplace, and our clients are also much more receptive to it because they have to, right? So a few weeks ago, we had a call with Switzerland, Singapore. Recently, it's US, Indonesia, Singapore, stuff like that. I think has just become common. And you ask which platform, it's not even how, why do we need it? Can we just jump on a conference call? I think those have been debated. In the context of leading people, maybe the flip side of that is, and again, you've seen this in the coming up more and more. The need to kind of bound up when is work and when is not work. Literally because of the team, right? US into Europe into Singapore, you can work 24/6, 24/7. And so in the past, you had natural guardrails. Now we're trying to put in place more concerted effort to put these time guardrails in place to make life manageable.
Yeah, and someone working on like in a global role like yourself, I mean, that's gonna be literally 24/7, right? Yeah, when the markets are open, somebody somewhere in the world is gonna be open. How do you deal with that personally?
I think we talked it out. I think there were maybe two things that we made kind of technical adjustments on. If I can share quite candidly, one is we talked it out. So we said, hey, actually from a personal preference style, what works, what doesn't work. So our US colleague was actually sharing, right? She has 3 kids. She does call them at the end of her workday. So 7 to 8 to 9 is kind of a no-go zone for her. And where possible, we try to respect that, right? She does yoga, it's important to her personally. We also try to respect that. So that same conversation kind of plays out across the various markets. And so these are things which in the past, I think in the background, people may think, it's okay, I don't need to really bring it up, or it's not that important. I may not want to mention it so much. But I think now that we've tried to encourage that sharing across the team, so everyone kind of have that space to verbalize it, and we try to protect it. I think the second thing also that has come up to kind of make things more productive, but also to manage interpersonal relations. We go a little bit more about styles as well. Okay, and what I mean by this is, so I lead a team, right? We probably have about, with the expanded team, about 8 to 12 people. And what I mean is we try to make it very explicit, right? So if there are certain things we need to get done in the spirit of time and all that, it just needs to get done. We will make it, this is a command, please do it, right? Or this is a directive, please do it. Versus the actually, let's brainstorm, let's think about what's a better idea. If we have a problem, how do we get around it? So I think in the past, again, these body language cues or verbal cues may not have been so explicitly mentioned. And that was one thing I think we tried to address up front.
Oh, that's an interesting point, and actually quite almost similar to how like hierarchical organizations like military or police will have to do it, right? And you have to almost make it clear sometimes, because you do work closely together on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes when you give an order, that's an order, right? You got to go and do it. How often do you find yourself having to, or within the team, right? Like how often do you find that the team has to make that explicit, say on a weekly or monthly basis?
That's the thing. I think pre the last 6 months, less so, because we got into a good understanding. So to give you a sense, the team generally talks to each other at least once a week, if not more. We don't have an all hands call because we can't get the time zones to work, frankly. So it's either in the US or the Europe. But because of the regular cadence, we kind of already got to know each other. And the nature of our work is also quite diverse, right? So if my UK colleague is going to talk to a UK client, there's no need to get so much involved. And the culture we had in place was actually pretty much, we don't micromanage, you kind of do your own thing, that works. So that's why that was the background to which that we wanted to make it a bit more explicit.
I see. And do you have a team locally as well, right? So you kind of have you have to have different management styles with the international team, with whom you've been working kind of remotely anyway. Prior to COVID, and I mean, maybe you need to adjust a little bit for their situation in their markets, but by and large, the ways of working are pretty much the same. But the local team, like, do you find yourself having to adjust and adapt in bigger ways than what you've described?
Absolutely. So that's probably a bigger adjustment. We have a team of about 4 or 5 people physically here in Singapore. And in the past, in the office, we do run into each other. We actively experimented with trying to again having the guardrails around having downtime. So as an example, okay, we are a team of 4 or 5. There's a bigger sales team in Singapore. We actually just kicked off a lunch session. This was when we first started working from home, circuit breaker time. I think we quite quickly tried, okay, can we just put on we use Teams, right? So a Teams call, Wednesdays, 12 to 1, no agenda. And just come and you want to have virtual lunches. Again, this was new then. Just hang out, right? Even in our smaller team calls, we've kind of established that, look, it's okay to just hang out at the beginning, middle, end. Like you're seeing my home office here, I guess, and it's all in its full glory. But in the team dynamics, then I think we made it clear that it's permissible to actually, and encouraged to actually get to know each other's lives a bit better. We've seen each other's kids. Most of us have young kids. We've seen, fiancés. We've seen family members. We've seen nice gaming chairs. We've seen Liverpool jerseys in the background. So all these kind of give rise to, I would say, actually quite a different side. But the key here was then to say it's fine. It doesn't and it shouldn't just be about work. Given what's been happening here, there's a social side to it that I think we recognize and wanted to call out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. People have this saying in the past that we bring our whole selves to work. And I think that's more true now than ever before. Literally, we are.
Yeah.
We have no choice but to be our whole selves at work. And for you, right? Do you do anything special during this kind of period to encourage a culture of high performance in your team, or do you feel that actually it's kind of the opposite, right? That people are already burning out too much, and you have these guardrails already in place that you need to maybe protect that time a little bit better?
Yeah. So I think in that sense, compared to some of the other folks that you may have spoken about, my team is smaller in nature. I think to guard or at least to ensure continued high performance is really just having more regular check-ins. So experimenting with the style, right? So you have a call with the US, UK, that's one. You have the Singapore team kind of check-in, but also individually to make sure that he or she on the team, how is that adjustment happening? I think then there was a very quick, yes, we went into the various circuit breaker modes, right? Actually, how have things changed? How is he, individual coping? Where can I, as a team lead, kind of help? So to give you a very concrete example, we made it clear there's no expectation, right? That if I'm messaging someone or calling someone on a team chat, you don't have to pick up. It's okay, right? If it's urgent, then I'll find another way WhatsApp to get through to the person. But I don't want my team to feel that they're on call all the time, right? And then vice versa, I'll check, actually, can I call you at a certain hour? Will I disturb your family members and vice versa? So I think more communication on those fronts have helped. The bank has been quite good, I think, in this regard as well. Human welfare, staff welfare. My own boss has given us like goodie bags and gifts. So that has helped. We've tried to replicate a few such experiments. I won't go into details. Stuff like that, I think it's has helped. So we had a good culture of performance, high performance prior. But I think as we move in now, it's keeping the human side as well and staff motivation up.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And for you personally, what is, if you don't mind sharing, what is one mistake that you've made in the past that you've learned from that has made a big impact on your management style?
You only ask the easy questions, I see. I think this would be active, or the mistake would be not listening enough. I think if I think back in the earlier years of my working experience, I tend to be a very big picture person. So this is specific to my own style, right? I tend to be a fairly big picture person, sometimes a bit impatient. I think I know the answer, I jump to it. And so I think one mistake I learned was that sometimes I don't read the cue, right? On, hey, actually someone wants to say something in the team to contribute. Am I encouraging that? Am I also allowing that space? And sometimes the mistake is you wait, maybe you count 1 second mentally and you say, the person didn't respond. I don't need to actually, maybe he or she has nothing to say, let me just go on, right? And I think over the years, to rectify or to address the shortcoming is really to how do I give the space, the time, and mental space as well to have that feedback surface. So active listening, but not just saying the right words, but really, is this person comfortable? Why not? And to get the person comfortable, the team comfortable to talk.
Oh, that's a really good point. Even before you can get to the point of listening, actually, you need to even set the environment that the other person is comfortable to talk, to say what they mean, right?
Yeah, and if I reflect back, sorry, but if I reflect back, my previous experience, it's a very diverse culture. Everyone is there, but everyone tends to be, I would say, more outspoken or willing to speak up, right? I think since having moved back to Asia, different cultures exist in Asia, but then being then aware, maybe people may not be so used to speaking up. How then do you go the extra mile, extra step, again, make sure that they feel in the safe space to do so? So I think that has been one adjustment since coming back to Asia that has helped and came from a past mistake in the previous work life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to go through a few quick questions. You don't have to give very extended responses, just top of mind, whatever comes to mind, within 30 seconds kind of thing.
Sure.
Just so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit better as a person. So the first one is, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Football player, soccer player. No doubts. I spent, yeah.
What was the book or books that have most greatly influenced your life?
I would probably say the Bible. I grew up, I've been a Christian for most of my years. That will be the book.
Very nice. And what is one thing on your bucket list that you hope to accomplish over the next 12 months?
Sorry?
Cannot be travel already.
No, it can't be travel. I for someone who travel a lot for work, I actually don't like traveling. It's kind of an irony. I don't actually have a bucket list. And this is a little bit linked to, me being a Christian. I'm quite happy to take one day at a time. So there's no real desire to do certain things. If I get a chance, great. If I don't, that's kind of the approach I have on life.
That's wonderful. Okay. Last question. So imagine that you're addressing a smart, driven, first-time manager who's just been given a team and they're about to lead this team for the first time in their careers. What kind of advice would you give them? First of all, that's part A. Part B is, what kind of advice do you think they should ignore? Because there's a lot of bad advice going out there.
I think the one advice that comes to mind is that when you're leading people, it's not about having the answer. It's really about leading people. And no, our many education systems don't really test or highlight that, right? And people think, I'm smart, I have the answer, I'm driven, it's all about me. And it actually is not. It's a whole completely different skill set. And I think that's one big mental shift that, that's one big advice I'll give. How do you lead people is actually a much more nuanced answer. One thing to ignore, I would say this, linked a little bit to my earlier comment. Leadership is not about authority. So I think some advice that tends to come up is, you got to, especially for younger managers, right? You got to assert yourself, you got to show who's in command, or you're the boss. I don't buy that. I think respect will be earned, not just given. And if you perpetuate that, the risk of alienation is far higher. So it's a common advice I've heard, but I don't personally think it's. I think it's something that people can and should ignore.
That is a really subtle point, and I think you put it really, really nicely, because that is very true for a lot of first-time managers that we see, and it's a common pitfall. I was one of them, right? And especially in the military, you get that kind of thing. So thank you. That's very insightful, very very to the point. Everyone, this has been another episode of Leading People, and we've been speaking with Stanley Tan, Group Head, MNC Sales Global Transaction Services at DBS Bank. Thank you very much for your time, Stanley, today.
Thanks, Chitong.
I've been your host, Chitong from EngageRocket. If you've liked this video, please follow us on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Talk to you again very soon.